Hey guys, it's Mike. I'm back. Decided every once in a while I'm going to do a couple more of these videos a year. Just something I can't really commit to full time. That's not really the point. Point of this video is that we're now done 6 weeks of the NFL season. And after 6 weeks, I think is actually the best time to start evaluating coaches in the NFL. We see it way too often nowadays where after an 0-2 start, 0-3 start, the fan base has already turned on a coach. It happened to me last year with Chip Kelly. After 2 weeks, I wanted him out. But that's not really fair to the team. That's not really fair to the coach because after an 0-2 start, 0-3 start, 1-3 start, even, you can still turn that team around. It's only once you start hitting about 4 losses, 5 losses on a year that the problem becomes that it's too late. Your season's too far gone. And that's the point of this video. We're now 6 weeks in. We have a pretty good guess about who's good in the league, who's not, whose season's destined for greatness, who's already fucked. And so let's talk about the coaches on the hot seat. Just before we get started, I want to qualify that there are going to be no first-year coaches on this list, none whatsoever. No Hugh Jackson, no Chip Kelly. I hate Chip Kelly. No Adam Gase, nothing like that. It's way too early in their coaching stint with that team to get a fair assessment. I know the Browns love to fire coaches after just 1 year, Rod Shudzinski, but I mean, not even the Browns could be stupid enough to fire Hugh Jackson. Even though, if you look on Twitter and just search "fire Hugh Jackson," you'll see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tweets about Browns fans already turning on Hugh after 6 games with that deplorable roster. That roster is so bad. And the fact that they've actually been relatively competitive in a lot of these games. Out of their 6 losses, 3 have been by more than 10 points. 2 of those were relatively blowouts. I mean, the Philly game in week 1 and Tom Brady's return. And we all knew Tom Brady was going to tear up the Browns. It's 6 games into his stint. He's got a really trash team. But one reason I'm saying is because he invited Art Briles to a practice. He invited him. Yes, I get what's going on with Art Briles. I'm not stupid, but that is not enough to fire a coach for inviting someone with that past to a practice. It's not like he hired him as an assistant. I think fans just want a reason to be angry at everyone. You search fire, insert coach, there's one. I mean, except for Mike Zimmer at this point. I actually tried it. One other coach, before I get into the coaches that are going to be on this list that isn't there, is Ron Rivera. And yes, right now, as I have the draft order up on my screen, the Panthers would be the second spot in the draft if the season ended today, due to record and strength of schedule. They are 1-5. They went 15-1 last year. They were about 3 plays away from winning a Super Bowl. What happened? It ain't Ron's fault. It really is not Ron's fault. It's David Gettleman's fault. David Gettleman, the general manager of the Carolina Panthers, deserves to be fired for how he handled Josh Norman. Josh Norman, whether you love him or whether you hate him, he really was the key in that secondary. He was the glue holding that secondary together. He's gone. That defense fell apart. The front 7 is still as dominant as it was last year. It may not be creating the same amount of pressure, but it still stops the run, and it can still get to the quarterback enough. Sean McDermott is still a really good defensive coordinator. The problem is the secondary is so bad that the front 7 has to try to make up for it, and the offense now has to play catch-up. And when you're a run-first team, playing catch-up doesn't work. Now that I've gone 4.5 minutes without actually talking about a coach on the hot seat, let's talk about some coaches on the hot seat. First up, the 1-5 Bears, John Fox. What the hell? I thought that Chicago was going to be about a 6 or 8 win team this year. 6 on the low side, 8 on the high side. Really, we kind of knew what they were. I was wrong at least. I don't know what the hell is going on in Chicago. That doesn't even look like a football team right now. Benching Jay Cutler, and you know what? Chicago fans have made up their mind on Jay Cutler. They don't want him. Whether I agree is neither here nor there, but I mean, Brian Hoyer? Um, Dowell Logans and John Fox. I have a question. How are you not able to find a way to get Alshon Jeffrey the fucking ball? Cameron Meredith has been their most targeted receiver over two. They just have no interest in giving Alshon the ball. And he's in a contract year. You're giving a guy who's in a contract year who wants to prove himself, and you're just like, you can go. You can go. Like, it makes no sense. The organization's been run really terribly for a long time now. John Fox, I don't know what's going on. I know the secondary is really bad, but I mean the offense is really bad. They're a shockingly awful team. They should be in around that 3-3 mark at this point, but they're just so awful and they play so terribly that I don't even know what to say. He's got to get it turned around quick, or he's gone within 2 weeks, I think. Second, this comes as no shock. Todd Bowles. I didn't want to include Todd Bowles on the list, but I really don't have a choice anymore. What the hell is going on with the Jets? This was a team that was this close to making the playoffs last year, with much of the same roster this year, and now they're 1-5. They're 1-5. They're awful to watch on offense. That offense, which I mean, no one thought that of all people that we were going to see a repeat for Ryan Fitzpatrick like he did last year. That was a one-year wonder. They caved in. They gave him the money. He has played horrendously, and I mean, you knew the season was going a little bit off the rails early when Ryan Fitzpatrick throws 6 picks against the Chiefs. On a side note, I had Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker in my fantasy lineup that week. Thanks. But seriously, he threw 10 picks in 2 weeks. He only threw one yesterday against Arizona, but I mean, he got benched. He got benched for Geno Smith. And there's the second problem with this. Ryan Fitzpatrick is bad. Geno Smith is probably just as bad. So you have Fitzpatrick, who can't find the right color jersey, Geno Smith, who can't find the right color jersey, and then you have a third-round pick that you spent last year on Bryce Petty, and you have a second-round pick that you spent this year, admittedly about 2 or 3 rounds too high on Christian Hackenberg. So you have 2 young guys that could be fighting out for a starting job and actually developing and getting reps and everything. Instead, they don't even dress for these games. They're on the sidelines in a damn in a damn hoodie. What is the point? Hackenberg took one drive worth of snaps in the entire preseason. Why did you bother drafting him that high? His defense is okay. Like, the Jets are still a decent defense. David Johnson tore them up yesterday, but David Johnson tears up everyone. The Jets need to figure it out quick, and I'm not sure, one, that they can, and two, even if they can, if it's enough. I mean, 1-5, and Todd Bowles is being compared to Rich Kotite. Rich Kotite is actually being name dropped in 2016 because that's how bad the Jets are. Next up, Chargers, Mike McCoy. Yeah, they beat the Broncos, and I think Chargers fans were a little bit relieved. I know that for a fact. I have a best friend that's a Chargers fan. But you can't get excited just because you won one game. Mike McCoy still is not doing well at play calling. Everyone expected the Chargers to blow it anyways. That's what they've been doing this year. And it's bound to happen soon enough. They faced a Broncos team that didn't have their head coach. It was on a short week. There was really no way that they should have lost that game, especially considering they built up that lead. I give McCoy a couple more weeks to get it turned around. I think if they hit 2-6, I think he's fired. And you know what? I could definitely see that happening. Next up, someone who's been on the hot seat, it seems like, for the past decade, and that's Marvin Lewis, Cincinnati Bengals. Paul Brown, when are you finally going to put the pressure on Marvin fucking Lewis? Marvin Lewis is the second most tenured coach in the league. All right, he's been with Cincinnati for 14 years as the head coach. He is 0-7 in the playoffs. 0-7. Bill Belichick has been the head coach of the New England Patriots for 16 years, has 19 playoff wins and 4 Super Bowls. 4 or 5? 4. He's got like you can't even say multiples. Why? Because fuck's sake, Marvin Lewis hasn't even won a damn playoff game in 14 years. In 14 years. They're 2-4 now. They look like the Bengals did back in like 2005, 2006 when no one cared about the Bengals whatsoever. And I think a lot of Bengals fans at this point are just so sick of Marvin Lewis. They're okay with the team losing out just in hopes that he won't be around. He should have been fired a year ago, 2 years ago. At what point is making it to the playoffs suddenly not enough anymore? Come on, make it to the playoffs, win a damn game in the playoffs. Don't just make it there to try to save your job. Do something. And I'm going to go with one more before I hop off out of here. And that's the Jaguars. They're sitting right now at the 10th pick if the season ended today. By the way, so far we've had the 3rd pick Bears, we've had the 5th pick Jets, 8th pick Chargers, 9th pick Bengals, now 10th pick Jaguars. Gus Bradley. This was supposed to be the year the Jaguars turned it all around. And you know what? They've done okay. They're 2-3. I think they're going for a 3rd straight win next week, if I'm not mistaken. But this was supposed to be the year that they turned it around and actually started competing. And after the first couple of weeks, they looked pathetic. They looked really pathetic, especially considering that they spent a high pick on Jalen Ramsey and lucked out and got Myles Jack in the 2nd round, who definitely shouldn't have even been there. They had 2 of the best and 2 of the most versatile players in the entire draft last year, and it took until week 3 that Gus Bradley figured out how to get them both on the field at the same time when they both play defense. They spent all that money. They're still not playing well. They've had a ton of high draft capital, and oh yeah, Blake Bortles is still really not good. At what point is the potential finally going to start turning into results? I understand not firing him after 1 year, 2 years. He's in what, year 3 or 4 now? I think he's in year 3. But at what point is it just not enough anymore? This idea that, well, we're going to get there. Well, we're going to get there eventually. Well, we're going to get there eventually. Just get there already. Like, your fans can't take any more of this. Jacksonville's been too bad for long enough. Maybe he gets fired. I really hope he doesn't. So yeah, there's 4 coaches right now that well, they need to coach their ass off. They really do. Sorry, 5 coaches that need to coach their ass off to keep their jobs. I've spent enough time rambling about this. Leave the comments down below, and I will talk to you probably in about 2 or 3 weeks, and we'll talk about the same topic again. See what happened. See who's improved a bit, gotten off the hot seat. See if anyone's jumped onto the hot seat. Till then, peace out.